Okay, today really happy to have Mark Bennett in from PDS Coaching Performance Development Systems. Mark, how are you, sir? You well?
Awesome, thank you.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thanks. So this will be well, we've had several chats over the years. I've been to one of your master classes. You came onto one of our campfires right in the middle of COVID, and we had a few of the coaches from England Boxing on there. It's been a real journey for me since then, and I thought I'd get in contact with you just to discuss some of the ideas and applications of the PDS way, as they call it, in my boxing coaching. One at Dice and one at my club in Eastbourne as a volunteer. So I just thought we'd talk about PDS and how that can apply to boxing. How can boxing coaches bring it to the floor, and also definitely get your red pen out for me and scrutinise some of the stuff we've done, see how I can refine it a little bit better. How does that sound, sir?
Yeah, it's good. We'll really nail it down to practitioner level, which is what most coaches are, as opposed to theorists. So, yeah,
Okay,
let's get stuck
fantastic.
in.
Let's get stuck in. Right, because I'm working in Brighton, let's talk lighthouses. So the lighthouse, the kind of how we pull everybody into what we do around here and how we do things. Can you tell everyone a bit more about the lighthouse and how that might pertain to any boxing gym in the country, how they can use the lighthouse to start directing what they're doing?
Yeah, so I use this across all sports at all levels and in business. So in essence, I mean, it's called the lighthouse because a lighthouse is a point of reference. So if you're at sea, technology, etc., breaks, the one reference you point you got that you can guarantee is your lighthouse, and you navigate safety, direction using your lighthouse as a reference. So if you haven't got a lighthouse, then people will have massive different interpretations of what is acceptable, exceptional, unacceptable in behaviors, in commitment, in time, whatever it may be, even how we coach, how we interact. So one of the critical elements is any organization needs to have is what is our lighthouse? What does that actually look like? Not some amount of times, Adam, I go into organizations, I've got all these words on a wall. And I went, there was a pro elite team in the States I worked with. I got the board in after a week of observation. I asked them, have you got a lighthouse? They didn't call it that. It was their vision mission statement. And they all said yes. Do you all agree with it? They all said yes. So I said, because I knew it wasn't in the room, can you all tell me what it is? And not one in the room could explain what was on their wall, couldn't recall it. So when we're looking at a lighthouse, the lighthouse has to be, as a club, when I come here, if I'm not a member of the club and I come to your club and I watch the practices, the training, the interaction when people turn up, when they leave, how they coach, how they perform, and in matches and going to matches, fights, whatever it may be, I'd be able to look at it and I'd be able to write it. I'd be able to go, this is what I'm seeing, Adam, if I came to your club. And that would be your lighthouse. It's that point of, what are our behaviors? What is our interaction? What is our commitment? What does it look like? What is success for us? So I will give you an example where it could be subtly different. A lighthouse for a grassroots club could be engagement, enjoyment, keeping people in the sport and allowing them to build their confidence and competence in making informed decisions. And we're going to use boxing as the tool and the environment to do that. So all of a sudden now I've got that as a statement. Then I get into, okay, well, what would that look like when they walk in the room, into the gym? What would that look like for me as a coach on how I interact with them, how they interact with each other? What would be the expectation on overcoming fear, courage to do things that they can't yet do, helping others be better in those moments when it's uncomfortable, celebrate success, whatever it may be. I've got that point of reference, what it is. Then I go, well, what would that look and sound like on all the situations walking through? And we find time to build it. But importantly, we need to involve everyone of influence in it. It's not just something we talk about once and we all nod. We talk about it, we agree it, and then what we share, what does that look like? So once you've agreed it and what it looked like, it may be over the next few months, we're going in, okay, what would it look like now? So now people are going, okay, show me. Great. So could we do this every day when things aren't going well, when it's cold, wet, and dark, and it's in the winter? Because that's our lighthouse. It's not when we feel like it. It's not when things are going well. It's the very behaviors and attitudes and interaction and commitment we're going to say we're going to do every single time. And if we do these things every time, we'll get to that lighthouse.
Okay, yeah, And one of the first things that I'm thinking about here is everything you're saying. I'm going, right, how do I apply that to my boxing gym as a volunteer boxing coach who works in the evening? And one of the two problems that we have is you have the recreational boxer who turns up and doesn't have a boxing glove, from his backside. And then you have the guy who's boxing on Saturday. Of course, with resource wise, it might be it's just me turned up, the other coach is sick, all these kind of things happen. And every coach who's listening right now is going, yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, Adam. And it's probably the same across all sports, let's be honest.
Yeah.
So if we have these standards, agreed commitment, we understand, for example, the performance side, what our lighthouse looks like, how our behaviours are, etc. What about the recreational guy who comes in as well? How do we on board and how do we cater for recreational people and performance people? Because that's a massive challenge that I find so difficult.
So pretty much every single club in every sport has this issue, and where they fall down sometimes is empathy. If I use the word empathy, and every time we use one of these crazy words, I'm just going to explain meaning and understanding, so when we're all on the same page. Empathy in this situation is I understand others within what their success is, and I ensure that I never inhibit their success. So give you a real clear difference. I've got someone comes in the club, say they're both 12 years old, 13 years old, just as an example. And one wants to represent their country in the Olympics. And that's their goal in a few years, whatever it may be. And they're doing everything they can in nutrition, in sleep, in training, in practice, conditioning, to be that. And they're really clear. We got another guy, and he comes in, he likes coming with his mates, and he likes to have a bit of hit on the gloves. He don't really like sparring that much, but he likes the atmosphere, he likes the crack, and he comes in. So what we need to do is when someone comes in, that once we share what the environment is, part of that empathy is understanding people will have different levels of commitment in this club. I'll just make it up as a club. But what we need to understand is we need to honor what we say our success is at the beginning, and we need to make sure we help others be successful in theirs. So if you're saying, right, I'm coming in, I just want a bit of a crack, I like working on the gloves, and we say, okay, so one of the things that's non-negotiable here in the club is we commit to any tasks we agree we're going to do. So if it's bag work, what does that look like to you? So it's not like having a 10-minute chat. We're on the bag, we're giving it, because that's part of us. We need to know what success is when I'm on that bag. That's a non-negotiable for everybody. But also, if you now this guy who's also coming in is wanting to be at the Olympics and represent his country or her country, we got to go, I got to make sure I don't do anything to sabotage that person's goal. And I need to, how can I support that? And this is the important point, Adam, on this, is the person that wants to go to that Olympics, wants to represent their country, they need to have empathy for some others may not be as committed as them, and don't get annoyed with it. But don't pull themselves down because of others' social dynamics of their commitment to what success is. So they need to understand you're not here to get to the Olympics, Sarah. You're here because you enjoy hitting a bag a bit and you enjoy the social of it and stopping the boredom, and it's a bit of fitness for you, and you like that side of things. Great. Well, I need to make sure I don't get annoyed when you're not at the same level of commitment to me, but also I need to make sure I don't inhibit your goal. And that's part of the lighthouse of, if we're looking at interdependence, what is that? Is everyone has different goals, different levels of capability, but what would be unacceptable is not to agree what that is and then honor it. So this is where eliminating the grey for me is really important. So at a club, we need to get to, why are you here? Why are you coming? Not as a threat challenge, but to be inquisitive. Now, some of that might change. I've seen people that I would call leisure athletes. You've heard me say that before, Adam, is the point of they turn up, they do what the coach asks them to do, but if no one's looking, they'll just do what they like. They won't do what they need to do. That's the leisure athlete. Nothing to do with capability. And I've seen elite level leisure athletes. A performance athlete is someone that, irrelevant of capability, they'll commit 100% to everything they need to do to be the best they can. So part of that element is when we come in, we need to make sure, right, this is a lighthouse for the club, but where is your success, which could be different. Okay, if your success is this, let's look at minimum what would be acceptable and unacceptable for you. For you, okay, it's this. Right, so what will be acceptable and unacceptable within your commitment to each of these elements? Where if you're looking at performance, it's definitely going to be more nutrition, sleep, how many times you come in a week, working on things you don't like doing, you're not yet good at, clarity on that. If it's the leisure, we still got to make sure that you're not hindering the others, but also you're making sure that even if you're saying I'm coming to do bag work, you commit to that bag work. If you say you're going to come in twice a week, then don't tell me you're going to come in twice a week and not come in, because then if you're not, you only come once a week. We need to have another review because there's other people using the club. So we're still building some people skills. We're still building social dynamics. We're still building commitment to something, but we're making sure everyone's clear that not everybody's the same.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds to me like everybody there is now given clarity of what choice they want to make. Here's standards of your performance, and here's standard of your recreational. And if you want to be recreational, if you're performance, but you want to, and you're not meeting those standards, hey, fine, no problem. You go down to recreational and you stay there. But would you say that, because that has happened, that's happened several times where it's kind of like, we say you have to do X amount of runs, you attend so much, you have, all the bits, the sleep, the eat, the living the life to be a performance athlete. But then they're not meeting those criteria. And then you go, that's fine. So I think a lot of clubs would just kick them out and say, bugger off, you're not going to, go away. We don't say that. We say, okay, fine, you're just a recreation. You've chosen to be recreational, no problem. Do you see a bit of a bounce back though when people suddenly realise, hold on, I'm level with a recreation now because I'm doing this, but I know if I want to be performance again, I need to do this. Do you see them bounce back up again?
Yeah, it can work both ways. When it works well is the coach has a really good conversation and doesn't have what I call invisible expectations. So what I mean by that is the coach doesn't think, well, you should be doing this. And I keep reminding you, and the athlete's thinking, I'm doing enough. I'm fine. I'm getting the results. And the coach is getting annoyed because they're thinking, you're not nailing your nutrition. You're not nailing your sleep. You're not doing your evaluations. You're not committing to that defense work you need to. And all of a sudden then there becomes a bit of disparity and conflict. And sometimes then we can athletes drop out and go, coach just has a go at me all the time, but I think I'm okay. So what we need, how we need to do that, and you've explained it well there, Alan, but just Alan, to add a bit of texture onto it. If someone's saying, right, I want to get there, then you go, okay, so what behaviors and commitment do we need to get there? Now, if they go, oh, it's this, and you're in your as a coach experience, and you're saying what you're sharing with me is nowhere near, we just need to raise our awareness. Says, look, in my experience, if you're only doing this, you're only going to get here. You say you want to get here, but based on those behaviors and commitment, it's here, which is fine for me. But let's agree that if you want this, this is what you need to change. But that's a choice of yours. I'm just here to support you, but raise your awareness to your present level of commitment will not get you to where you need to be. I'm cool. And at any point then, they might then come back, which does happen, where they go, I'm ready to commit more now.
Okay.
Because I'm now recognizing. So there will be the odd outlier that is lazy and still beats everyone in the gym. So they're the toughest people that go, well, why do I need to change? I'm winning. I go to the club scene, I'm winning. But what you need to connect them with says, is your goal just to win at club level? Oh, no, I want to get to the Olympics. Okay, so you're not fighting at the level you need to perform at. You're fighting at a lower level. If you want to get there, if you want to get to the Olympics first of all, and then you want medals at the Olympics or whatever it may be, finals, quarterfinals, whatever it is, we can't compare where you are now with where you're going to be, because there's going to be 4 or 5 people in other countries now that are going to be pursuing excellence in everything they do. And the first time you're going to meet them is 4 years' time in a ring, and they're going to throw you all over the place. So we need to get a bit of reality check on. Don't go comparing yourself to who you're winning now. The people you need to beat, you will not see for years, but we need to be ready for them now. So sometimes it's just an awareness process within that.
Okay. And I think part of that awareness process might be the UAEs, mightn't they? In terms of, so Mark Bennett wants to box in the Olympics. So, okay, but at the moment your behaviors are aligned with a club level boxer.
Yeah.
So perhaps I need to sort of talk about what acceptable looks like and what exceptional looks like, and how we flirt with being exceptional nearly every time. So for those who don't understand around the UAEs, and I actually call them GAP, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Can you tell us what that is all about?
So we're back to that eliminating the grey. So expectations and what a coach or an athlete thinks is acceptable or unacceptable. So the UAEs are basically what would be unacceptable within this task, action, behavior, what would be acceptable, and sometimes, it's not always, but what would be exceptional. So we agree what that is, and that may be a club agreement on certain cultures, behaviors, but often it will be with an athlete and the coach on certain elements. So once it's pre-agreed, and this is the important point, pre-agreed, so they know what it looks like, this is our point of reference, then every time we've got a review at any point, whether they're acceptable or unacceptable, we've got a point of reference we've pre-agreed with. So there can't be an argument with it now. We're saying, okay, so remind me what we agreed. Now we've got that. So if we don't do that, what tends to happen is it's a bit wishy-washy. So then when the coach isn't happy or don't think they're committing, they think they're unacceptable, the athlete thinks they are, and then you get in this bit of conflict argument and nothing really gets done. Because one of the biggest challenges I have across all sports and businesses, there is not enough clarity on pre-agreement. And the UAEs help provide the clarity on what that looks or sounds like pre-agreement. Then we get stuck in. Then we can use that as a reference when we go, okay, review that. How was that? Now we've got that connection.
Okay, and I know that you use a lot of these UAEs, based on behaviors. So, what is a behavior for a performance athlete, for a recreational, but these are the UAEs for that. Now, I use UAEs for both. So I use them for behaviors. So what might turning up at the gym look like in terms of your body language, having your water bottle ready, having your kit, what time are we on the gym floor, committing to a good warm up, etc., what that looks like. So most of them, I'd say, Dice, have a good understanding. Some still don't, and I just need to make that a bit more clear, and enforce that a lot more. But I also do it for tech and tax stuff, and I just wanted to know what your take on the tech and tax stuff was. I know, and we'll talk about your slogan, shall we, in a little bit, but I use it in tech and stack stuff. So for example, if we are doing a certain task, and it might be, we're all just working on trunk defensives, which is slipping, rolling, moving your head, that kind of stuff. I will put them to the side and say, right, okay, so what does acceptable look like? And we'll try and come up and draw that out. So it might be, it's a small movement making a miss just in case. Okay, great. What would unacceptable look like? We're reacting too slowly because we're still and we're getting hit. Okay, what does exceptional look like? Well, every time we slip, we come back and we try and connect. Okay, great. So they've got that level there. So I use it a lot for that as well. And I just wonder, how do you see that for your understanding of your model?
It should be used in both. It's used anywhere where we need clarity on anything we're going to review. So, in boxing, I'll make something up. Adam, is what would be unacceptable with a certain fighter? You're going to scout a fighter. It's in a big match, and they're going, right, he's got a very powerful right hook. Okay, so what would be unacceptable for you? Well, moving round left with a low guard would be totally unacceptable at any point in this fight. So we're looking at them, we put those situations in. So it could be as clean as that things go, if we do this, we're going to set ourselves up, for a trap, whatever it may be. And the other example is one you've used on any of the basic stuff. So we've got a picture of reference. So then when we're doing sparring or whatever it may be, when we've done like a minute or 2 minutes, as opposed to us going straight into the feedback, and it might lead on to another question you're going to ask Adam, we go, okay, review that. So it's not us as a coach going, that was really good, don't forget to do this, but I like that. We go in review, talk to me. Whatever words you want to use. And then the athlete is saying, right, yeah, I reckon I nailed that. And if they're missing that key UAE that you've pre-agreed, you can go, right, talk to me about this, review this part. And all of a sudden they're going, oh yeah, I'm not really sure. Oh no, I didn't nail that, did I? So it's that clarity point of reference. If you haven't got them, it comes really difficult, and you end up, which I hate, is people asking 20, 30 questions because they think, oh, great coaching is asking lots of questions. No, it's not. And you all of a sudden what you're doing is you're saying so many questions. So eventually, even if they didn't know anything, they're going, well, based on the questions you're asking me, you're looking for this answer. That's not. So the point of referencing helps that reviewing as well.
Absolutely. And then otherwise the words become, how do you think you got on? Yeah, all right, pretty good. And it just becomes a grey nonsense. Yeah. So one thing that I've kind of tried to put some teeth onto with the boxers with this, and this doesn't work very well with a podcast, but I'm going to show you it now anyway. I don't know if you can see that very well. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Right, and if you're watching this on YouTube, guys, it's a lot easier. So with the UAEs, I call it GAP. So basically, great, average, poor. Just trying to keep it the language for my youngsters.
Yeah.
And then I've got the round time on the x-axis, 0, 1, and 2. tell me when roughly, and it's not going to be exact, you were great, you were average, poor. Trying to give them almost like a timeline. I started really well, and then I switched off a little bit. So maybe I can have a conversation in the middle, around here where it's got down towards poor. And so, why do you think, you were getting caught, or you weren't? Oh, I stopped moving my trunk a little bit. So I'm just trying to give them a bit of a timeline around that as well. But I'm also very cognizant as well, Mark, that the whole point of this is to make adjustments in the moment, as opposed to waiting for me to provide this feedback or joint feedback at the end. But I'm hoping that this kind of approach can give them more that I can make those adjustments during.
Yeah.
So how do you see something like that?
Right. So there's layers to that. So the fact you're scanning for a time period of spot where it's really great, and no, that's far below your capability. And the capability is important. We've got to make sure what we're checking they're capable of doing. So you asking, okay, review that. What we want, this would be the acceptable when we started. What we want is to get to a point where they can reflect in detail, but also not just reflect when they're unacceptable, also reflect when they're exceptional. So the big thing for me is when they go, they'll avoid that often. They'll just look at, oh yeah, I did do this here. And I've just spotted, you shared that graph there. There was 2 peaks where they were definitely exceptional. So I would be going is, okay, were you exceptional at any time? Oh yeah, okay. When? Oh, the first 30 seconds are really, so what were you doing there differently that gave you so much success? Because I want them to then connect and recognize the stuff they're doing well and what caused them to do well. Often as coaches, we only get stuck into the detail when it's not going well and what do you need to change. Well, we're focused on the stuff. If they've been doing it, I want to connect. Okay, so what did you do so differently there that gave you the success? Okay, how can we repeat it? So that's the first stage that most coaches, I'm generalizing here, will have to build the detail of reflection in athletes. And don't think it's a waste of time, because it's a first step. The next step is now live. I'm recognizing I'm now unacceptable, whatever language you want to use. I'm going to adapt it straight away. That could be in choice of movement, in execution. But now I'm recognized, bang, I'm on. I'm now recognized I'm doing something really well. I'm getting dominant. I'm going to keep doing it. So then at the end, you should be then see a really tight blip, possibly where for a couple of seconds are unacceptable, then they come back up again. And now when you go, okay, review that, they go, really pleased. I noticed I was doing this. I changed it straight away. Maybe a couple of seconds, I was back on it. Now we're building where we want a boxer to be. We're building a boxer. We go, they recognize when they're doing things well and how they're doing it. They have the ability to change, but their ability to recognize what they're doing well, what they're not, and adapt live without the coach shouting and telling them.
Mm-hmm. So I want those lines being a lot smoother, but they only get that understanding if they understand, when they've been exceptional or where they've been unacceptable, or as I say, great or poor. But yeah, I like that, because I do, when we go to this part, my first port of reference is always, when were you poor? I'm looking at the troughs rather than the peaks.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, well, obviously coaches obviously see me doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And I think people get very internal then, don't they? They start going insular and what they're doing rather than how can they excel. And that's a real bad cultural approach, I think, from me.
And that's important, Adam, that we share, right, this is what we're going to do and why we're going to do it, linked into, because we're asking athletes to do something different that traditionally they may never have, because a coach gives them all the solutions or guides a few questions that you can answer based on the question. So we want to share with them, look, the aim is to get you to be able to adapt live, read the opponent, know your capability, strengths in a moment, and adapt live for your superpowers, whatever they are. So I'm going to ask you to review after we've done a spar round, whatever it is, what I'm interested in. And the reason why I'm not going to give you any clues, I'm interested in what you saw and understood about what you just did. That's where my interest is. Now, if you miss something, I might share a question specific and detailed. It's a bit great, but that's why we're going to do it. So then they see the value in it, because a lot of people, if they're not used to this at any age, will struggle initially because they're so used to just waiting for coach to chuck loads of data at them. So once we've done the sell first, which is important, then we just got to honor it. And it won't take, I mean, I've seen this when I've gone to all sports. Within 20 minutes, I've got athletes at all abilities starting to do it quite well. Now, The nuances of the detail may not be great. They may not, and this is very common, they may not be able to adapt live, but they're starting to recognize when they're unacceptable. They haven't yet got the ability to know what to change live. They might be able to tell you, but they can't show you. And that's part of the way they've been coached for years, because they've been coached by post-action intervention, I call it. So they're doing something, they wait till the end, then the coach tells them what they need to change, and they go out again. Probably forgot most of it when they go out again, by the way, because there's too much chucked at them. What we need to do is get them to recognize it live, but importantly, know how to change it and then commit to that change. So all sports, when there's a conflict, an opposition in all types of sports, not just boxing, one of the elements that I work with any team is recognizing when something's going well, obviously, and keep doing it. Recognizing if there's an issue, identifying the solution, and then either commit to the solution or share the solution if it's a team with others. So you wouldn't need that one in boxing, of course. So if we start to look at that as the 3 phases, recognize, identify the solution, and commit to the solution, we've got 3 levels there that can help an athlete grow. So we may get to a point early on where we're saying, I'm recognizing what I'm doing wrong, I just don't know how to put it right. Well, that's stage 1. Okay, well, let's work on that. Now you know how to put it right. Do you have the courage or the skill to actually change it? Now I know. So there's a difference between tell me and show me. Yeah, I could tell you what I did wrong at the end, but I don't know how to put it right live. So those 3 levels is where we want to get them to. Then we can start your graph you share there. When we get to a point, then we may not have dips, may stay all at least acceptable. But when we have a dip, it's like 1 or 2 seconds because they've spotted it quick and they've adapted. Now we've got real celebration there because that's huge. Now when we go into the tough matches and we can put people against them that have difficulties that can real test them, we're looking for how quickly they can identify and make the physical adaptation if they need to. If they're doing everything great, keep doing it. That now is a point of review because now we're growing them. But now they're a thinking boxer, but not overthinking. They're not, oh my God, what am I doing here? They're doing it in flow. It becomes natural.
Yeah. And I like how you say about committing without fear as well. Because boxing is fear. You know, you're not just dealing with trying to outdo someone. If you get it wrong, you're getting hurt. And so there's part of that fear. So being able to commit, you see so many boxers being clunky, like boxing with the handbrake on, because it's almost like you can see that they're just about to consider something, and then there's this seesaw moment whether they commit to it or not. And basically, cognizant-wise, they're overthinking and they're not committing, and they don't trust themselves. And I think a lot of that comes from the coach, partly going towards the negative all the time, but also the remote control, isn't it? I'm giving you. So why would you make decisions if I'm doing it? So I'd like, so you know, you mentioned about your action review process there and how I think first you're capturing data, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're capturing data and then you're going into the actual review process. So can we go into that kind of review process now then? So the rule of 3 is something that I'm really big on, not just in what we do with boxing, but actually sort of out the boxing ring now. It's kind of like almost gone into my life a little bit more. But anyway, let's just keep it boxing for a minute, and I'm sure I'll move into that a little bit. Could you tell us a little bit more about the rule of 3 and how that works with your process?
Well, let's rewind, Adam, on the first bit you've said there. So we've got to ask ourselves, if you're listening to this and you're the coach, you've got to ask yourself, are you part of the problem or the solution? So you shared slightly there the coach part of the problem. So if we're a fault finding coach with no intention, our intentions are honorable, we're not paid well, you know, we work hard, we commit, we have passion. But if all you're doing is sharing with them what they're doing wrong and how to put it right, you're a fault finding coach, like it or not. What that will do with many athletes, unless they're really arrogant, confident, and they just like take it no problem, for most, what that will do is that will be a preventative measure for them committing to things. They don't want to get it wrong. And anytime I do something wrong the coach doesn't like, I get some verbal from the coach, even if it's best intentions. So it's best of me not doing it because I won't get shouted at as much. So that's the same issue when we're looking at if we want them to commit to decisions, 2 things. We've got to make sure they have informed decisions so they know they can back themselves. They're not questioning it. Secondly, we want to celebrate commitment to a choice. Even if it's the wrong choice, if we're seeing an athlete hasn't committed, now they're committing. Wow, I need to celebrate that right there, because that's first step. Because now they're committing to an informed choice. So once they get the celebration, then we can delve down into, okay, so talk to me about the choices you made there. What informed your decision? Whatever words you want to use, obviously, at whatever age gets to them and they understand the language. So now we're inquisitive. This is not a telling off. I'm inquisitive, because then they go, well, I saw them moving around to the right, and there's a couple of times they've dropped their left on that right. So I thought when they move around to the right, if I tucked in that uppercut, I reckon I could have caught them. But I totally missed because I was out of range and I just left myself open. So that's data I would have not have known unless I followed this approach. And now go, I love the fact you're now committing to choices. So what did you learn from that? What would you do differently? And if they don't know, go, well, let me share this with you. Then we can be the coach that's sharing new data. Or let's work on a little breakout drill that can help with that. Okay, let's put it back in. So where we get to the principle of the rule, and this is so important with every sport, we only earn the right to review if we commit 100%. Now, we will know if someone commits or not. It's not a grey. And if you need to film it on your mobile, if you're allowed to, and go, right, oh, I think I committed, coach, and then you play it back to them. What am I seeing there? Oh, yeah, we didn't really commit. Okay, so we haven't earned the right to review it because we've got to commit. But the question would be then, what's preventing you from committing? I'm really interested in that, because that's all I want you to do. So it may be, well, I'm not sure what I want to do. I'm not sure what to do. Oh, I don't want to get hit. I don't want to get it wrong. As soon as we find the source of the issue, we can then support that element. But we may often recognize that we're part of the problem that's preventing them doing exactly what we want them to do, based on how we're interacting from, we're just not being silent and giving them the space to make decisions and commit. We're giving them too much data at the end, and it's fault finding data. It's, you should have done this in this particular movement, as opposed to, as I'm sure you know, Adam, there could be 4 or 5 different choices in that moment. But a coach might go, no, you need to do this. Well, that's inhibiting the growth of an athlete, especially with their uniqueness, their style, their body composition, their levers, their basic nature elements. So we need to make sure, let me make sure, have they committed? Yes. Okay, now I want to find out and really explore and be inquisitive. Why did you choose that? I'm really interested. Not in why did you choose that, you got it wrong, which often that why question comes in. Is now I'm really interested. What did you see that informed you to make that decision? Now I've got their understanding. Now I can help. I can't help if I haven't got that from them. So opening that ability for boxers to express, but express in some objectivity. Now I use the word objectivity. It's subjective, I know, but what they're doing is they're quantifying why they made that decision, which is fantastic. So this then links into the action review process. And I think we should probably share that before the rule of 3, Adam, because it links into a framework of decision making and reflection.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
So this you can use in life, and we use it across business and sport, used it in the military as well. The first stage is always state. So state is my state acceptable? So state, if I'm now thinking, oh, everything's going wrong, bang, 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 it's hitting me. I'm not thinking in a way that's going to allow me to the next step, which is collate data. So I call it scanning, but it's data capture. You look at the best boxers in the world across the decades, and I'm sure all of them, if you ask anybody, one of the top on the list is really world leading match IQ live. They can read the opposition. They can start to suss things out and adapt live. That's one of the things they've got. So they can't do that unless they're really good at data capturing, and just scanning, looking at the trends, looking at what they're doing with the movement, where their traits are. I'm capturing this, and I might need to do a few, 30, 40 seconds, a few minutes. I'm starting to spot. That's my data capture. From that data capture, that's giving me options. Based on my present capability, I'm going, right, well, I've got this. And based on that, then we just get into the influencers. And the influencers are, right, well, I can't do that because they're going to smash me in the head. I can't do that because I haven't got the reach again. I need to get in. Okay, I'm less with this. Right. And then once I've made an informed decision, I just go for it. Commit 100%. So that sounds like a long thought process, which initially it will be if you haven't done it. So we can use opportunities to practice. But very, very quickly, this becomes very organic and natural. So under speed, that's what people naturally are doing. And it gives them confidence to know they're making a good choice. Now, the back end of that, which is where most, when I work in golf, again, it's a lot of pre-shot routine. We're not very good at the post live. The other element afterwards is the post. So first question I self-ask, did I commit? If I didn't commit and go, I'm not wasting time psychoanalyzing anything, just commit. I'm going to commit next time, right? I go for it. If the commit, yeah, I'm committing, then I review how was choice execution. Yeah, good choice, didn't really execute. Right, next time I'm going to do this. Execution, nailed it, wrong choice. Next time I should have done this. Right, I'm going to do that. So the conclusion part is not based just on outcome. It's based on commitment first. No, I can't go any further. Don't worry, just commit. Then I committed. I'm looking at the choice I made and the execution separately. But that is the end point of data capture, because that will help inform you for the next action. The best people in the world are very, very good at that. The beauty of it is we can train this all the way down from 5-6-year-olds.
So I'm thinking people like Usyk. If I look at it as state and then the ability to capture data because of their state. If you watch Usyk box, very calm. You know, they say skillful people know where to look. He seems to be picking up information because of that calmness. You know, and he's been in some hairy moments where he's been ruffled, and he seems to weather it and bring his state back. His state doesn't seem to change. So his ability to capture data, which is important in boxing as well, and then he commits to everything he does. There's nothing fluffy about what he does. Just commits to it and commits to that process. And if it goes wrong, you can see him just kind of almost resetting and bringing himself back. So there's always that kind of commitment to it. When you asked the question about committing, as we put them in spars, they're with each other. As the round stops, that's the first thing I ask them to ask as well. Right? Did you commit? Now, a couple of semi issues I'd like to just discuss with you. So they're getting better at that, because what happened was they seemed to the did you commit question almost seemed to be something they just had to get past before they went into the action process. Like, did you commit? Yeah, I did. No. If you really think about it, and now some of them are actually putting their hands up and go, do you know what? I didn't commit. And then we say, okay, so what happens if you don't commit? I don't get to self-review. Okay, great, fine. But one thing that you mentioned about 5 minutes ago, which I've missed, is what's preventing you from committing. I missed that. So it's almost like, okay, well, let's have another go. But you can't have another go in boxing.
Exactly.
So what's preventing you from committing? So that's something I'm straight away adding in. And then they go into their self-review process. So again, if I could say what I'm doing, and then you
Adam, just add a little bit on there that may help you. Instead of asking, did you commit? You might, and it may be just for new boxers, or it may be easier, just say, did you commit to all your choices? Because that's an easier one to reply to, because now they're looking back on, actually, I did for the first few minutes, and they kind of catch me, and then I wasn't in the last minute.
Sure. Well, that sort of brings me on to the next part. So again, whether I have this right or not, I'm hoping I'm getting there. So no, didn't commit. Okay, so what's going to prevent you committing, etc. Right. Yes, I did commit. And they're talking to each other, and I'll go around and I'll listen to that because there'll be lots of spars going on. So they're all conditioned, safe, so I can go around and listen to them. And the next time I listen to them, etc. So yes, I did. Okay, so that gives me now permission to self-review first. So basically, I kind of go into what went well, which kind of goes into slightly, I think, with the choice. Did I make the right choice? Slightly. I'm not sure if I had that right. But then the what went well, then the even better if. And the even better if is basically my choice for my next round, what I commit to the next round. It's my goal for the next round. And I call it stick or twist. So am I sticking to what I'm doing, or am I slightly twisting in how I emphasize it? Now, one question I want to ask you about that is, because they're holding each other accountable for that, and we'll go into rule of two in a bit, because they're holding each other accountable, is there a bit of an inherent problem there? Because if I'm sparring with you, Mark, and I tell you this is what I'm trying to do, you've already kind of got that way of stopping me from doing that. Is there a bit of an issue there, or is there another way that I can attempt this?
I don't think it's wrong, but I think if you want to keep it as real as possible, I often use little whiteboards. So what they do is they review and write it on a whiteboard, bang, 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 and then they put that down and they go again. You can bimble around, pick up the whiteboards, so you can see what they've picked up, what they said they're going to do, if you're not there at that time. So it prevents the other person going, oh, so you just told me what you're going to do. Well, I'm ready for that. So now, are they really scanning now? They're going, well, I'll just be ready for that thing you said you're going to do.
The scanning part goes,
kind of thing. I think one of the, and there's no right and wrong here, but one of the other texture points is we can have is, if we go, okay, review, if they've committed to the choices, that opens a way for them to just pick the elements where they go, I was really pleased with this. Actually, I wasn't consistent here. So now they're connecting with anything that stands out with them. So that will give us a bit more of a steer, is if someone's always negative on themselves, or are they picking the stuff when they're doing it particularly well? Because if we prime it to go, what did you do well? And this is great, especially with young kids, novices, great, because you're getting them to accentuate the positives. But if we want to get to a point, well, let's see how you're reviewing that. I wouldn't frame it to go, what are you doing well? I'd just go, okay, review. And I'd be seeing what comes back. I'd be seeing, are they picking up only on the negative things that I thought were okay and your fault finding?
Okay.
Or are you now going, oh, I was brilliant, I was really good, and you're thinking it looked good because your opposition was terrible, but you were still making poor choices. They were still not the best choices. So I'm thinking now I've got a better picture for me to put that intervention in, especially, when we're getting into competitive now within boxes. I want to see how they're thinking.
So my what went well questions can be, I can ask that a little bit further down the line, but just generally at the start. And some of them are not as good as reviewing. They just don't have those kind of interpersonal skills. Just say, okay, what do you think of that round? Be a bit more vague, and let's see what kind of information we get back. And that gives me a bit more of an understanding of them. And then I can hone in with better questions.
So as long as we share with them what the review is and what the expectation is, but also don't forget, often before they start that round or that particular spar, they'll have a clear success criteria. They've already said, success for me is this. I want to focus on this. So they may know that they may have a work on, which is the one thing that they might need to improve for months. It'll give us a big impact. It might be their footwork. And you've agreed, when you say footwork, what does that mean? So when they're going in, they might go, okay, so my focus is still my footwork. So when they go in, irrelevant what's going on, we could review. Okay, so review, and they're talking about everything. We go, review your work on? Footwork. Because we've recognized already that one of the things that's inhibiting their performance is this element. And we've already said that if we get this right, everything else becomes easier. And it may be, you may have a different one, Adam, where you've dictated, and this is that thing about coaching of the spectrum of allow, challenge, tell, ask, that spectrum. You may say, right, we are in this particular spar, we're working on you countering, we're working on you setting a trap to open their lead left down, whatever it may be. That's success. So then if that's success, when they come in for the review, okay, review, and if they talk about 100 things, you go, no, remind me what we said success was. Oh, it's this, coach, review that. So there are ways where you can go, for this particular athlete, I want them to focus on this. So let's pre-agree what success is and then get them to review that. And then once they review that, is there anything else? So there are ways where you can, that light and shade.
Okay. But I'm also thinking, like, if for example, they are saying, I'm going to commit to X in this next round, but if they're too specific, then the nature of the sport goes out the window, doesn't it? So if I say, Mark, what I'm going to do, as soon as you're about to punch, I'm going to slip to my right and throw my right hand. Well, it's ridiculous, because the whole point of the sport is outdoing each other and outthinking each other. But what they can do, because if they're going to share a kind of goal that they need to commit to, and they can hold each other both accountable to, is I need a little bit more trunk defense before. See what I mean? I'm not giving you what I'm doing, and I'm not telling you exactly where I'm hitting you, but there's still something that at the end, when I self-review, you can come back to me at 2 and go, hold on, Adam, but did you? I don't think you did commit, because I didn't see you move your head once.
Yeah, now this goes back into the lighthouse, and this is where it starts to loop back. So if we're saying for the lighthouses, and we're linking to the intro to that rule of 3, is if rule of 3 is 1 being the best I can be, what does that look like now? Rule of 2 is helping my teammates be as best they can be. What does that look like now? As soon as you're in this situation, I need to be saying, right, I need to test my opposition. What do you need from me to really test you? But also I need to be the best I can be. So now when you're doing that review where it can be sharing specifics, you can have someone going, right, this is how I thought I did. I was happy with that. I need to adjust this a bit better. The other person might be going, actually, I think you were too easy on me. I found you quite passive. I found it really easy to get onto your left side. That's the one place you didn't want me. So now we're having some, because that sparring is about challenge. And success in our lighthouse in this club is when we're in, we do the best we can be and we help the other. So if I'm not making it hard for you in this spar, I'm doing you an injustice. So now that's part of the lighthouse if it's pre-agreed. And all of a sudden that dialogue then becomes very different.
Right, brilliant. So, okay, this is what I'm not doing well enough. So when I can pull that part back, when they're saying, actually, no, rather than saying, well, I don't think you are committing, which is a little bit fluffy, part of our message, our lighthouse, is FAR, FAR, feedback, accountability, respect. And one of the behaviors in accountability is you commit 100% of the time, which comes from you, basically. So committing 100% of the time. So as they're reviewing, and boxer 1 said, I'm going to need to be moving my trunk, moving my trunk, moving my trunk. He's spotted at 2 that he's not. He can then go, right, what is the A part of FAR? It's accountability. And what do? We commit 100% of the time. I don't think you were moving your trunk at all. So I'm bringing it back to the bigger picture. If those values and the lighthouse is clear enough, which I think it is quite clear, but I'm not pulling it back to that. I'm pulling it back to just a technical or tactical thing as opposed to a behavior thing.
And that's the text. Yeah. And that's the texture of the culture, because what's really important is say, look, we want back to that rule of 3 at 1 being the best I can be, helping others be the best I can be. When I'm giving someone feedback, I do it in a respectful manner, but I'm doing it because I want to help them get better.
Yeah.
So if you're receiving feedback, it's not their fault finding with you. And this is why as coaches, we need to be the role model for this, is they're helping you get better. So if they felt you were a bit linear in your movement pattern, it was quite easy to catch you, and that was one of the areas you were working on, I need to tell you, actually, I found you quite easy to hit because you weren't going off the axis line. So that's helping that. Okay, great. I can do something with that.
Okay, so Mark's told Adam, I don't think you have, and I'm bringing it back to that accountability. We commit 100% of the time. So then we go into the 3As, right? Although I've bastardized it slightly and I called it ABA, because England boxing used to be called the ABA, the Amateur Boxing Association. So, well, I'll let you go through that and I'll tell you why I've slightly changed it. So the 3As at 2.
So if a peer is giving you information, feedback, one of the things that isn't, and I'm generalizing again, but in our social aspect in schooling and community at the moment across the board, we're really poor, and social media hasn't helped, of accepting feedback without filter, without getting defensive, without thinking someone's picking on me. So part of the 3As is if someone's giving you feedback information, the first thing you need to do is internally accept it and not barrier it. Then acknowledge it, whether in a thumb, a hand, or just verbal acknowledge, where you go, okay, I've accepted it, I'm acknowledging it. And then the third one is act on it, commit to the change. So one of the questions that comes out often is, what if they're telling them wrong, Mark? And you go, well, part of you as a coach is to make sure that they have a level of understanding. So when they're sharing on a level of a content, they are sharing correctly. And if you spot, then you can upskill their knowledge and understanding. But this is an element, we're looking about community and building social interaction, interdependence in life. I feel personally it's one of the areas we don't spend enough time on. Effective communication is not how you say it, what you say. These are enablers. Effective communication is it only has the desired impact. So if I'm sharing, it's not effective until that's had a shift in the way I want to do from the person receiving it. And that's where the 3As helps. Okay,
so accepting, acknowledging, and acting. And I've changed that to accept. So accept the feedback, bump, because they got gloves on. It's kind of like bump, which is my, my high five or what you want to call it, and then making sure we're acting on it, and then them holding them accountable after that action to see whether they have actually acted and it's changed the behaviors of that boxer who's accepted, bumped or acknowledged, and acted. And that's where I am this year with that. Last year, I don't think I made very good inroads into it. And I think part of that was just part of my prep, if I'm honest. This year, I'm making a conceited effort to it because I'm thinking, well, accountability is we commit every time. They need to hold each other accountable to that. F is feedback during, after, and keeping them each other on track. And feedback goes really well into accountability all the time. So I've got that part in, and I'm trying to put teeth onto it. This year, what I've done is I've done the action review process, but I've kind of left out the 2-part at the moment in that process. The bit where they self-reviewed, what went well, even better if, okay, stick or twist, that's my goal for the next round. Because I've found in the past that kind of putting that part in there, almost too much, bit of an overload for them. But now I feel I've stabilized it really well this year. And I'm about now, post-Christmas, to add in 2 as the ABA part, or the 3 A's, and now start holding them accountable because I feel like they understand the process better and it's not going to sort of, cognitively overload them. Does that make sense? That's kind of where I am now with that.
Yeah, and that flows nicely into the player first, player last, which you would clearly call boxer first, boxer last. Mm-hmm. In this, we've spoke about a lot of tools, applicational tools. This one for me is a no-brainer. That if a coach started to do this,
you'd think
it would be a game changer for so many.
Yeah,
because I've seen it in too many sports to not believe that. So, in essence, if we use the word boxer first, boxer last, but just for clarity for the sport. So boxer first would mean I've just seen a boxer do something, whether it's a spar or a round, whatever it is, as opposed to me giving feedback. The first thing I do, and obviously if they're under stress, duress, give them a few seconds, a bit of water to get back. And then I'd say review or talk to me, whatever words and language. And the boxer first means I want to get their thoughts, their evaluation of what's just happened without me chucking stuff at them. Without me going, that was really great. What do you think? Or blah, blah, blah. No. Poker face. Right. What have you got for me? Review. Talk to me. Whatever it is, the words that you always use. Then they share. I'm now listening. Then there'll be a dialogue, and it might be absolutely nailed it. I don't need to add anything. Love what you're doing. Or, okay, well, what if they do this? The what if questions. And now we're just making sure. Or they've missed something totally. Go, can I just share with you this observation that I'm seeing? This is what this guy's doing. Now you know that. What's the solution? Whatever it is, there's a dialogue. At the end of the dialogue, it's boxer last, which is missing in so many. Even at the pro level, I shake my head sometimes in MMA and in boxing in the rounds. At the end, give yourself 30 seconds, 20 seconds, whatever. And we say to them, okay, so what are you going to commit to? Or what have we agreed? And now I shut up and I listen to the boxer. And it's that boxer going, right, I'm going to do this. Not, that's great. And don't forget, and then add another 4 or 5 things. I mean, the amount of, if I can just be really negative for a moment, Adam, watching many professional boxing fights, if they're the role model for how we coach during rounds, there's something fundamentally wrong with how they're being coached. And I think it's just that's how they were coached. The reality is, and I'm sure you'll know plenty of academics who can support data on this better than I can. If you're in a fight, your head's all over the place. There will be some crazy, unless it's going really well, you'll be like, you'll be knackered, you'll be tired. You'll sit down on a stool. And the amount of times I've seen 2 or 3 people sharing information, and they're just like trying to drink water. You get like a yeah or a no or whatever it is from the boxer. It's going in one ear and out the other. They're now sharing another thing and another thing. And then they go, yeah, okay, you got anything? No. And then all of a sudden, as they're about to get up, we've got another guy in his ear. Oh, and don't forget and do this and do this. I guarantee you they will not remember hardly any of it. And the problem is because you shared so much, it's gambling which bit they remember. And also we have not engaged them in the discussion of the strategy. So the chances are once they go out, they will not commit to any of it. It will have no value. We've just killed that opportunity of interaction. Mm-hmm. So the boxer first, boxer last should be, while I'm watching in a round, I'm looking at, right, this is all the stuff I'm seeing. You might see 10 things. But what's the most important? I'm going to strip it back. If I can only say one or two, what would it be? That big? Okay, I'm down to these two. I won't even mention any of these others. This is what I mean. But I need to find out what they're seeing, what they're understanding. Now I've got that. Now they may cover that themselves. So one of the questions may be, and this is time loaded, I know, like many other sports, is I need to say, if they give me the right answers, my first question needs to be, and we can practice this, obviously everything we need to practice is in training. If they give me the right answers of what they didn't do and what they need to change, my first question must be, that's great. When did you notice it? And wait, okay, why didn't you do something about it? What prevented you? Because what you're telling me is right, but what you're not doing it. So why aren't you doing it? Because your knowledge is great, but your action, the words to action part, don't tell me, show me. So what's preventing you there? Because that's huge for me. Because what I don't want a boxer to be is a great theorist at the end of a round or a fight, but actually, when did you recognize it? Well, why didn't you change it? That's what I need you to do in the fight. We're back to adapting live. So that having the boxer first, boxer last is going to give you data. It's going to allow you time to know, okay, now what's the right thing to say right now? And the boxer last is, now I've got that window of time. I need to shut up and I need to check what's actually gone in.
Okay, so that actually comes back into the whole, so the process of boxer first, boxer last, and asking them what they're seeing, why didn't we change it, etc. That goes back to the rule of three in a way, doesn't it? That we're putting the coach at three, as opposed to the traditional coach is always number one.
Yes.
Well, you need to do this, and then the coach overloads, and cognitive load theory, isn't it? You're throwing a million things, and they can deal with one. Not to mention someone's trying to kill them, so it doesn't sit. So why is it important, almost from a traditional standpoint, that we challenge the tradition of the coach not being first, the coach being last? Why coach at three?
So the first one we've got to ask ourselves is, what's tradition? Why is it? Why are we still doing it? Does Formula One still do what they did in 1960? No, they don't, because they'll be last if they did. The reality is tradition is just what's always been done.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean to say it's the right thing to do. S&C's changed. Nutrition has changed. So many things have changed. Now we've got real data and we understand the human brain better. We understand performance better. We're still a practitioner, but what we've got to say is, look, when I was a boxer, and many coaches were obviously boxers, when I was in that ring and the coach was just shouting stuff at me, how much did I understand, retain, did you even hear, and what did I do with? And then you'll probably realize, I can't even remember what he said or she said. You go, well, okay, so why am I doing it? You're doing it because that's the way it's always been done, without check and challenge. Now, here's where I would make a suggestion is, you won't know if something's better unless you commit to it long enough to review it. So if you're saying someone, I wouldn't work with my boxers, and I've seen this in many sports, including even badminton, they have timeouts halfway through, basketball, netball, football, rugby, and all these sports where we go, Mark, I have to tell them because they can't work it out for themselves. So two things happen to me. Okay, so how have you developed them? How many hours have you put in developing so they can think for themselves? And if they could, would that help them perform? Absolutely. Well, I haven't really. I asked them a question, they couldn't answer it. So I told them, is not cultivating the very behaviors you want in the athlete. So back to Stephen Covey, begin with the end in mind.
Yeah.
So the second part is then, I said, okay, so we have, what's the purpose of practice? The purpose of practice is prepare them for a fight so they can perform to their best. So the hardware, the technical, tactical, the physical is one element. It's the software of the state, the scanning, the decision making, the commit to it, the evaluate live. We recognize is sets the average from the great boxers. Well, you can train it. So now we say at 5, 6 years old, or whenever it is when they first come into the gym, what proportion is hardware training and what proportion is not just lack of software training, but actually inhibiting athletes to think for themselves because we're doing it for them. So we've really got to set back and think, why am I doing this? And if it's, well, that's what worked for me. Well, when you say worked for you, think about how much went in your brain in those rounds when you were shared. No, I can't remember. Well, it didn't work for you, did it? You were just, there's levels of understanding, but also then say, look, we need to commit to something long enough. One, for us as a coach to be more skilled in it. but also give us a chance to see if there's a positive shift in the athletes, in the boxers. So I would say give yourself 3-4 weeks when you're not close to a big competition and go, right, let's share it overtly. Athletes, you might notice that I'm going to do something a little bit different, but this is why, because I want you to think live for yourself. And if I'm thinking for you, I'm not helping to grow that for you. So when I'm not going to be shouting stuff at you all the time. When we get to the end of a spar round, I'm going to be asking for what you're seeing and thinking. And I'm going to share a framework with you to help you do that. Now, I'm going to want to give you the answer, but I'm going to fight it so I don't. But let's now commit to this over 3-4 weeks, and let's see if we've made any improvements. So it's not something you sneak in. It's something you overtly share. Otherwise, the boxers will be going, I'm coming in. I've just finished spar. I'm waiting for coach to chuck 20 things at me. And now coach is going, what do you think? Or I'm just going to look at it in blank. So it's not going to be working because they understand, well, has coach been on a course or something? What's this? Just tell me the answer, coach. I mean, I even had England rugby where we were shifting the feedback to the athletes. And some of the even England players were saying, just tell me what you want me to do. Because that's what they were used to. And what the coach didn't do was share with them before. It says, look, you guys need to be thinking live under high pressure against the best athletes in the world. So you can't rely on me. So I'll be there if you fall over, but I need you to think smarter and better quicker. So I won't be giving you the answers now in these, and we'll start to build on it. And once they did that, then the athletes started to get it. But if we just chuck something in and we haven't shared with them the why, the value, and give it the time and respect it needs to grow. I mean, if I was saying to you, Adam, I need you to improve your squat or your clean and jerk or the way, you throw a right hook, I wouldn't just give you one practice for 5 minutes and go, right, that's my expectation. It's going to be great under pressure. You have to give it time. Well, software, you need to give time. And getting athletes to think, reflect and express with fact based on subjective but decent data takes time. So that's where I would really challenge tradition.
Okay. And one of those tools for that is I've coached Mark today, but Mark comes back next week and we've just done a session and we've done a certain skill or whatever it might be. And then I ask Mark, I remember what we did last week. Why is that question a really harmful question? Remember what we did last week?
Well, shall we share a tool and then go back to why that is not as good?
Go ahead.
So obviously, when we're passionately working in the coaching session, we may see improvements, but what we don't know when we see that improvement is, was it short-term recall because we were just talking about it and it was really in the front of our mind? Were we pretty much doing all the coaching feedback and they weren't having to think for themselves? So it looked good, but basically there was like a pawn playing by numbers. So one of the things we need to do is, we won't know if a coaching session is good, in my opinion, until 2 or 3 sessions later. And even if it's the next session, if it's a day later, whatever, until we see what's been retained without clues. So this is what I call a covert recall. So a covert recall example would be, we've got to a point in the session where I'm seeing them do maybe how they're pulling out and maintaining space against a boxer when they're coming forward and they're keeping the space, controlling the space. We worked on that. I'm seeing them that they've got to a level of progress and I've remembered where they are of the level. So another session, I might say to them, so they come in a week later, 2 weeks later, whatever it may be, might be the next session. I say, right, we're just going to do some sparring. Keep an eye on this. And I'll say something. It's nothing to do with the bit that they were working on, and I step back and I'm watching and observing to see what's been retained. So that's going to give me better data to say, actually, it's no longer there. It's gone straight back to what it was. So then I could go, right, after a spar round, whatever it is, I might then say, okay, review that, and they'll do the review. And I said, what did you work on last session or 2 weeks ago? And they'll tell me. I said, okay, back out. And that trigger, am I now seeing it? So now if I'm seeing it, I'm saying, okay, so they have the competence to do it, but they're just not connecting that association of consciously going, right, I still need to work on this. If I say those things, they just look at me blank and they haven't got a clue and they can't replicate it. That's telling me that was a useless coaching session, because clearly that was just me telling them, standing, shouting at them, guiding them. They weren't thinking, they weren't having to retain. So that's the point of a covert recall. It's a true test of check of how previous coaching has been, what's been retained. So back to your question, Adam, if at the beginning of the session we say, what did we work on last session or last week? Okay, and what are our UAEs around that? Now we get them to show us. Can you show us? We haven't really got the true reality of what's been retained without a reminder. So now we've really mucked up on us checking what the retention was like, which is so common, right?
Absolutely. So I'm just thinking it's a difference between something being taught and something being learned. So we assume because it's taught that it's learned, but these are robust checks to actually see has it actually gone in. You know, I suppose it's kind of like retrieval practice in a way, isn't it? You're spacing the learn out and seeing if it's been retrieved. But we all want to kind of, as part of our own ego, say I have taught that, so it's definitely learned. But we're not robustly checking it, and the covert recalls are a great way of doing that. It's something that I've kind of fallen back. I've fallen backwards. I've not been doing it enough recently, and I've been blocking my practice probably a little bit too much just to see. And then of course you get the arse because, oh no, we talked about this last week. But although sometimes I find it on behaviours, you know, it might be that we've talked about what turning up to the gym looks like. It's like, well, hold on, we what did we say? We said it was supposed to be ready by 10 to or 20 past or whatever it might be. But we're rocking up at this time, so we can hold them accountable for it. But I'm not giving them that chance for them to spot that themselves, you know, or pull each other at 2 as well. Hold on, rather than me going, what's going on here? In fact, I'll give you another little tangible one. One of the lads always has a bloody earring in, right? He has an earring in, and it might sound silly, but you know, it's health and safety, and you're getting punched and stuff like that. So he has an earring in. So we brought it back to, okay, he wasn't noticing. So we've kind of like almost paused. So what happens if he's still got his earring in and we start warming up? What happens then? So they're like, okay, well, we're okay to pull him on it. Okay, but what happens if you don't pull him on it and I have to pull everyone on it because no one's pulling on it? So I think the rule of, and it's happened once, but then I had to pull him on it again. So it's almost like it's not quite there with that yet.
Yeah.
But it did happen once where someone's pulled him. I saw him just sort of saying he took it out before I pretended not to notice. So it did work. So it has impacts on not just on the tech and tack, but the behavioural elements as well that I've noticed.
Yeah, and that's that framework of the rule of 3 is of 1 is you pursuing your excellence, committing, informed to the best choices based on what success is for you. 2 is your peers having a positive impact on others. So that would be a check and challenge, also celebrating when we're seeing progress. And then the rule of 3 is then the coach steps in. So you're constantly looking for 1 first. So if it was the earring example, I'm checking that person. Are they, before they start the warm-up, taking their earring out? I've spotted it because I can start. That's me scanning as a coach. I'm not just over here having a chat. I'm scanning them coming in. If they haven't, I'm immediately now looking for, is there any other peer spotted it and said something to them? If not, then I've got a choice at 3 intervention. It might be going to one of my influencers, not social media influencers of the culture, and going, Stevie, what are you seeing over there? Shall I leave that with you? Do we need to do this again? And that peer would then go over or I decide, no, this is a team thing. Right, guys, everyone stop. We'll come in. Okay. Remind me what we agreed on being ready. What was part of being ready? Okay. Can anyone look around and seeing that we're not ready? And then if they don't, right, earring. Right. Why didn't we notice it? What do we need to do better to prevent this from happening again? Remind me why it's so important for us. Back to the why challenge. Okay. We restart. So we're not taking over. We're always pushing it back on them, but we're deciding on judgment to get them to understand the why and what do we need to do better next time.
Because ultimately what the rule of 3 is a reflection of boxing, of what happens in a boxing ring, the ability to act and make decisions under pressure while some nutcase is trying to kill you. Well, if you can't make those decisions now and scan for what's for what's acceptable, you know, what the standards are, then we're going to fall down when we are under pressure. And I think that's something. And also for every coach listening, I think, you know, the earring is just one example where you could tailor make anything to the rule of 3. And one more thing, just notice here as well. If the peer, so their stablemate, whatever you call it, hasn't spotted it, and you walk over to them and go, hold on, what did we agree about 2 about him over there with the earring? I'm almost thinking, it's almost like a 2.5, isn't it, in some ways? Because there's a slight intervention from you,
Well, yeah,
but
it's yeah. I mean,
it's great areas, but
yeah. I mean, when we get into it, 3 is you have to do an intervention, and
yeah,
there's many of them. I've just shared a couple there.
yeah,
So you're now going, I need to do something that's going to provide success. It's an
yeah,
intervention of some sort. So that it's still you now going to somebody to go, right, I now to initiate something within the athletes because they didn't do it themselves. And then
hmm
it's the light and shade of what that is.
hmm Okay. Final question. I want to be respectful of your time. I know that's what everybody says in podcasts. I want to be respectful of your time. um, One of the issues that I have at Dice, and I think it's quite unique to my issue, is that I coach boxers from different clubs. So when I'm at work now, and I actually start in about 35 minutes, I've got boxers that come from this club, this club, this club, and they all come from different cultures, different approaches to coaching. Some very militant, some a little bit more laissez-faire, whatever. And then when they come to me, although I'll be honest, probably most are a little bit more coach-led. When they come to me, I am slowly putting in processes where I want them to be to understand that they need to have accountability, more autonomy, work together, and using the processes that I've learned from you to do that. It's a right challenge because it's very unique to me. So Joe, John, Steve, Claire, whatever, they've all got different ways of doing that. So I suppose my question is, how do I get a kid who is completely and utterly reliant on coach giving him the answers? And to be honest, a lot of them do have success. They do have success. To then getting them to think a lot more by themselves. I mean, I know it's probably the vaguest question you're going to be asked, but it's a challenge that I have across all these different kids.
Yeah, it works both ways because I've had this where I've worked with the international teams at elite level, and we've had to make sure when athletes have come in and totally coach-led coaches from their domestic top flight leagues, paying good money, is get them every time to understand that, right, when we come here, you may notice doing something different, but here's the value of the why. So take from your club, and I'm sure you can take some great stuff from this, but make sure you exploit this opportunity. So one thing you may find here that you definitely have to think more for yourself. And I may be interested in your reflections more than you're used to, but this is why we're doing it. So, and then you just meet them where they are. So you've had some that have come in 3 or 4 times. They'll know what the expectation is. You might need to do the check. What's different here, or what's our focus here? What am I going to do? Boxer first, boxer last. Why are we doing that? Great. So be ready for it. Just as a trigger reminder, using the language. New people coming in, that you'll have a lower expectation. If once you've baselined them, they're just looking at you blank. You start with them. But for me, it's always to share the why, because I've had it both ways, where I've been with the international team and they've come, but also I've been at the domestic club and they've gone to the international team, and the international team's been coach led. We've had to say to the athletes, look, you may not be ever challenged to think for yourselves. Keep thinking for yourselves. And if the coach tells you everything and doesn't ask for your opinion, nod, agree, and keep thinking for yourselves, because so don't upset the coach, but don't stop thinking for yourself. So we've had to prime, without being disrespectful to the other coaches, is making sure the athlete understands a why and being ready.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and also, yeah, so the coaches of the club kind of having an understanding as to why I would do this.
Yeah,
and once they understand that, you can't go against that, can you? But it's how you deliver that information and why it will have benefit to their boxers as well.
I mean, the bigger picture always is, Adam, is, and I've seen it when I worked for England Golf, is, we had a player had 3 or 4 different coaches that never spoke to each other. They had their
Okay.
the club coach, the county coach, and the national coach, and they were all hitting them on different stuff. Even their technical tact tool was different. No, you need to do this. This is how you swing the club.
Yeah.
So one of the things I really worked at, and we didn't get there 100%, but we definitely made an improvement, is make sure the spider's web of a boxer, an athlete, a golfer, everyone of influence are connected, whether it's on a Zoom or you have a WhatsApp group, go, oh, this is where the focus is. This. So as opposed to going, oh, what's he talking about? What's she talking about? No, they haven't got a clue. We're constantly, relentlessly keeping them connected, and we're keeping them up to date. We're sharing with them the why. So even though some won't overtly go, oh yeah, I get that, it's very hard for them just to knock it, because you're the one keeping them connected. You're sharing the why and not knocking what they're doing. So Boxing, I think, is another sport that really could do a lot better at that.
Okay, so athlete needs as opposed to athlete centered, as you
Yeah,
say.
yeah, need
Absolutely.
centered. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Right, Mark, how can people get hold of you? Because I'm sure loads of people after listening to this will think this is really interesting, and I just want to say this has had a massive impact on how I coach, behave, not just in Dyson in my club, but how I sort of talk to my kids and how I interact with people. It's a massive impact. So it goes just beyond the four corner posts. But how do people get in contact with you?
So pretty much everything is PDS Coach. That's because it's Performance Development Systems. So Papa Delta Sierra Coach. So the websites, all the social medias, PDS Coach. We've started a Don't Tell Me, Show Me podcast with a weekly with Alan Keane. Sure,
Yeah.
you know, the basketball coach I've mentored for a few decades now. And that's a weekly talking all these things as well. But on the website, I've now got an online resource which you can join that goes over 150 hours of all of this, how you can build it in. But obviously that's how you can contact me if you want one-to-one or team mentoring or training days. We can put on master classes around the world as well. So it's a very easy PDS Coach. You can find me there.
Okay, perfect. Mark, thanks very much. Really appreciate your time, mate, and appreciate all the influence you've had on me. So thanks very much, mate.
I'd say last thing for anyone listening, Adam, and thank you for inviting me, is I think we always owe it to ourselves as if we're a coach and we know we're doing it for a passion, is making sure it's not the passion that's the dominant. The passion should drive us to be the best we can be, to do the best we can be for the needs of the athlete. And sometimes that is going to be challenging how you were coached, challenging how you coach now. But I would suggest everyone owes it to themselves to really self-question themselves, even put a camera on themselves, record themselves coaching, and just look at, is there things that I want to keep? Is there things I think I can do better at? And then explore ways to improve. Because if we want to build society, if we want to keep more kids out of trouble and mental health and give them focus and purpose in life, boxing is a fantastic sport for that. But if we're not maximizing the best way to develop the person behind a boxer, we're doing ourselves a disservice, but we're doing them a disservice. So it's a bit of a catch-22, isn't it? Because you're passionately going out your way to be a coach. That, you know, it's hard work, a lot of hours, but also we've got to check on challenges. Are we being the best we can be? And that's where I would suggest, looking at my work and other people's work, say, could I integrate some of Mark's stuff that will enhance me, that's going to help the person as well as the boxer?
Absolutely. And I can definitely attest to that. Right, thanks very much, mate. And I'll
Thank
speak to
you,
you very,
Adam.
very soon. Take care.